Hey, what is up guys? It's your boy Speed here, and today I'm going to be showing you one of the new carry builds of 7.35b. Now this build was particularly buffed in 7.35 due to the addition of Conda. If you don't know what this item is, let me quickly explain it to you. It's one of the new items, a pretty weird and janky item, but basically gives you stats. 50 damage, 200 health, 200 mana, and 8 attributes, right? The damage mainly comes from Crystallis, the stats come from Phylactery. A pretty weird build-up. Now, when you complete the item, what it does is it gives you a passive Empower spell. Your next spell deals 100 bonus damage and 75% of your attack damage as bonus damage to the target. It also then slows them. So essentially, it nukes them, and then also based on your attack damage, it will nuke them for more damage. So on a hero like Morphling that has a single target nuke in Adaptive Strike and very high base damage, you get a lot of value out of this passive Empower spell. And that is what we're going to be covering here today. Tomato, one of the best carry players in the world, goes Manta, into Conda, into Ethereal Blade, and let's talk about it. Alright, before we get into the main part of the video, I do want to let you guys know that I'm not only posting videos here on YouTube, I also frequently post videos on the website. If you don't know what I'm talking about, almost every single day I'm posting a new video to the GameLink website. We're going to teach you guys in depth about how to get to the next level. So if you want to become absolutely broken, click the link down below and sign up. Quickly, I'm going to do the fastest possible recap for the laning stage. Let's get into it. You picked Morphling into Primal Beast, which is one of the easier lanes because Primal Beast can never really kill you. Easy enough there. In terms of starting items, you want to stick in most lanes, 3 branches, stats. Then you're going to take Attribute Shift and you're going to use it to have as much damage as you feel comfortable with. Then anytime you get low on HP, you shift back to max possible agility, 1 strength, max agility, you backpack your stat items, pop a tango, use your stick. Well, actually, he didn't even use the stick here. He just slightly shifts strength and it heals you for some really stupid amount. And that's how you heal. This is the entire laning stage. Backpack your stat items. Once you've hit max agility, then you backpack him, pop a tango while this is happening, and then morph some strength and you're fine. In terms of the skill build, you're going to put 2 points in your W next. In very specific lanes, you're going to want to skill your Q. Maybe you're trying to get away from a Viper, but in most scenarios, just skill your W. You're going to use it to get last hits and of course harass the enemy. And yeah, because it's only 50 mana, you can use it as much as you want, right? It does quite a bit of damage, usually around 150 at this point of the game, and so it's a great spam tool. The last thing to note for the early game is that Morphling is very good at responding to dives. However, there's a couple of things you have to know if you want to do this. First off, your items have to contain as much mana as possible. I think the Falcon Blade raindrops into hopefully a mana neutral item. Some of the HP regen neutral items are really nice early on. But yeah, you need Falcon Blade into raindrops or you just won't have enough mana. BTB's mid here, and the reason why it's good is your hero has innate mobility and it has a nuke. Obviously, I think some TPs are better than others. For instance, they were under the tower, and he was able to clean up a tombstone after, so that super worked out for him. After that, you're going to pick up a Morbid Mask and typically just sit in your lane for honestly as long as you can. You should see Morphling kind of as a lifestealer that can't really die, or a Juggernaut that can sit in its lane and can't really die. You don't really want to take Ancients at this point of the game, so yeah, just literally sit in your lane for as long as you can and TP to fights. But yeah, shoves in the wave, and then they're going to dive mid again. And believe it or not, here he comes to the mid lane, kills off the Undying, shifts, silences the puck. So how the ulti works now is you just turn into whoever you click it on, that's it. That's all you need to know. And yeah, they win the fight. Nice fight. Alright, here's where things begin to get interesting. You're going to notice his first item is Manta, and I wouldn't really stray away from this. I've seen some people doing other builds, but honestly, I think Manta in most games is the right item. There are some games where maybe you're against the Lion and you want to go Linken's instead, but I think it generally feels pretty bad to have to do this, because if you can get Manta, and then you can get something like a Bullwhip, and you have enough mana to sustain this, you get to use these very powerful illusions to push out waves for you. And I think that's huge. It super amps your farm if you're good at using Manta. And they just buffed this item twice, right? So it's nice. So yeah, next you're going to pick up Phylactery, which is such a great build-up. I mean, technically you could buy the Crystallis and that's okay too, right? I honestly think there's nothing wrong with buying the Crystallis and then the Phylactery, but I think his logic is the Phylactery is maybe a bit of a better early game fighting item. Gives you incredible stats, a lot of burst damage, and it's good, right? It's just a nice early game item, and it makes a lot of sense on Morphling because once again, the hero has mana problems. It might not seem like it at this point in the game, but trust me, it does. If you're spamming Manta, your W, your Q to farm, or your shift takes mana, when you morph into someone, you have to use mana to use their spells, like you need a huge mana pool on this hero. And so yeah, it definitely makes sense. But as you go into the team fight, typically you waveform in on someone who gets stunned, then you're going to use your W. You can look to shift into anyone. Shifting this game probably is going to be Puck or Undying are the main one, just to put down Tombstone and Decay, or Puck is just very mobile, so it helps you get around the fight, right? Turning into other right-clickers tends to be bad unless it's like, I guess PL can be okay for the W, something like PA. Typically mobility is good, is what I've noticed. A lot of people really prioritize mobility. Now at this point in the game, you guys are probably hoping he's going to start one-shotting people once he finishes the Conda, but yeah, that's not exactly what it does, right? I think people want to believe that there's some build where just going to run around and one-shotting people. That would obviously have to get removed from Dota, so that is not in the game. But one W does do a very significant 500 damage, right? And you have to keep in mind, this is 6-second cooldown on the item, obviously 10-second cooldown on the adaptive strike. It's a very, very low cooldown, casual 500 damage nuke, right? Also, this guy, I mean, it's more. This guy has a cloak, right? So it's probably more like 650, something like that, right? 680, something around those lines. And so, yeah, your hero, as per usual, isn't that good at killing these very tanky Undyings, right? You don't have crit, you don't have God Strength. You're more of a sustained damage, hard to kill hero. And so don't feel bad about the fact that you're not just instantly blowing people up. But in team fights, you typically want to target the supports because you will kill them, right? The majority of these like squishies, you will kill. Undying with Solar Crest and Cloak and Safety Bubble, not really. But yeah, you can really chip these heroes down. Let's also quickly talk about the talents. At level 10, he didn't take anything. He took Waveform cast range once he had both of his nukes maxed out and 2 points in his attribute shift, right? Then he took his level 10 talent. Level 15, he took Agility, which, makes sense. Morph duration's okay. It is super long because it typically lasts only for 24, so 16 seconds is cool, and maybe some games that's okay, but generally Agility is safer. At 20, you take Waveform attacks targets, and at 25, honestly, I think either are good. I think generally Waveform cooldown's probably a bit better, only because it works with the 20 talent really, really well. Like, the 20 talent cooks. It lets you flash farm like crazy and does a ton of damage. The Waveform attacks targets. Now, okay. He picks up an E-Blade next. I'm going to keep it real. I think it's pretty terrible, right? The reason why E-Blade no longer gives spell amp. It gives cast range, which is not bad. It's not bad. It lets you cast your W from far away. Waveform cast range is insane. It allows you to cast whoever spells you steal from very far. It has its place. It's not that I think this build is terrible, but I do think just scaling into a regular right clicker is a bit better. The way in which you can do that, I think the coolest item on Morphling now is Butterfly, because the base attack speed percentage is insane. Reason why? This hero, when it shifts max agility, has an insane amount of base attack speed, and then you get 20% of that, right, on top. So I think the Butterfly is a pretty cool and absurd item on this hero. I do think that the E-Blade, once again, its place, like the reason why Conda is so good and E-Blade helps a bit too, is the eventual mana pool. I know I'm repeating that, but that is the reality of this hero. It has a severe, he even has a backpack clarity and a bullwhip, right? You can almost never have enough mana on this hero, especially when team fights break out and you're starting to button mash. And you will see that this combo does a pretty ridiculous amount of damage. In this clip here, I'm going to slow it down so you guys can really see it. I'm going to really zoom in on the Primal Beast here. This nuke E-Blade, I mean, it nearly kills the 1800 HP Morphling because of Blade Mail. For a little bit of perspective, it did about half this guy's health, and he has 3400 health, so probably did around 1600 to 1700 damage. That's pretty insane. The issue, once again, because I do want to give my critiques of the build, right? My issue with it is E-Blade's a 22-second cooldown, which doesn't really line up with the 6-second and 10-second cooldown of Adaptive Strike. It doesn't mean it's bad, because you will generally get 2 of them off, but it feels a little bit clunky to me, right? I think it's fine, especially if you notice the enemy team just doesn't have any magic resist, a lack of Glimmer Caves, a lack of a Pipe, a lack of Eternal Shroud. You can kind of all in on this magic damage, and it will definitely have its place in that case. Also, you'll see him once again nuke the Primal Beast, and it does around close to half his health, probably more around a third considering his teammates nuked the guy too. And yeah, I really do think he was testing because, as I said, I think at this point you just go right-click items because right-click items, they amp the damage of Kanata anyway, right? So if you wanted to do more spell damage, I mean, even though E-Blade will give you the most at the end of the day, if you want more spell damage because of the Empower spell, you can just buy right-click. And in clips like this, you go on Alina, who typically you're very good at killing, right? If this guy has no BKB, which he doesn't, and you were to have a Scotty or a Butterfly, you just rip through him. But because he does a very specific amount of magic damage, which in this case, frankly didn't look that good, I don't know what to tell you guys. I think you just bounce it out. This Conda is extremely good because it gives you some mid-game damage and it gives you a mana pool, but then eventually I do believe it falls off and you should just kind of go back into right click, which I think generally will be either Scotty BKB or Butterfly BKB are a good line. Sometimes you don't have to go BKB. I think I'm thinking that because he's against Primal Beast Lina Puck, but in a lot of games you could also just go like, you know, Scotty Butterfly or Silver Edge, which it got nerfed, but something along these lines. And finally, in terms of his items, he's got a pretty cool build here. He's got Martyr's Plate, which helps with the magic resist for this game. He didn't go BKB or any magic resist item. Then he picked up a Swift Blink, which, you know, if you're going nuker build, the Swift Blink helps a lot just because you're kind of mobile. You're more of like a get in and out sort of build. And then finally he picks up a Satanic. I think this is just late game. He needed some sustain in the fights. He probably was kind of getting nuked out a bit, right? Maybe you get hit by like a Puck set of nukes and then you're half health and you can die to anything. And so Satanic helps avoid that problem. So Satanic tends to be the late game item in this hero. Even Butterfly into Satanic is a line that a lot of people will take. All right, and the last thing I want to take a look at is the Waveform talent at level 25, how it kind of comes into play. I also like that he picks up a Hex at this point in the game. I think a lot of carry players forget to do this in the late game. Yeah, it's definitely just good. As he hexes the Venge here, I mean, this is so high skill. Hexes the Venge to prevent the swap save on Lina. That's value because the guy's BKB. A lot of people would just click the Hex on Lina, but it wouldn't be enough here, right? So the Hex on the Venge finishes off the kill. That's a dieback, so literally gets a dieback on the Lina. And now, due to low cooldown waveform, you can go from target to target, right? Can chase onto the Venge here, kill off the illusion. That nuke did so much damage. I guess it scales, right? I mean, that's the nice thing about this Conda. It scales, because it just naturally scales with your damage. What did this nuke do? Wow, that's like 1,000 damage. Whew! Okay. So you can see this scales into the late game. I mean, that's what's cool. Yeah, I think just don't buy the E-Blade, guys. Just skill right click and the Conda will carry you. And just by nature of the item with Morphling. So yeah, Butterfly, Satanic, along these lines. But all right, I'm excited for you guys to try out this hero. It's a little bit hard, mechanically very difficult. So I recommend playing it in unranked. Not that you guys are going to do that, but nah, yeah, I recommend playing it in unranked a little bit. Definitely a difficult hero. But all right, I'll see you guys in the next one, and I'm out. Peace.
And that's all, but remember, before you leave, come on, before you tune out, subscribe to the Game Leap website where we are going to help you get to the next rank. If you're stuck, click the link down below, and I'm out. Peace.